Volcanicity. Quite an interesting topic in geography. And today's topic is volcanicity, as we can see. We want to understand what volcanicity is. So let's just dive into it. What is volcanicity? We are saying this refers to all the various ways by which molten rocks and gases are forced into the Earth's crust and onto its surface. That too, into the crust, and that is what we call the intrusive, and then onto the surface, and that's what we call the extrusive. So we are saying high temperatures and the great pressure exerted on the mantle by the crust keeps the rocks in semi-solid state. Such rocks are called magma. So we are saying volcanicity therefore includes volcanic eruptions, the formation of volcanoes and lava plateaus, geyser hot springs mentioned, and the formation of volcanic features such as batholith seals and dikes, which are within the crust. So we are saying rocks below the crust have a very high temperature, but the great pressure exerted on them by the crust keeps the rocks in semi-solid state. So we are saying the friction along rock surface at the boundaries of tectonic plates raises the temperature, and this plus a reduction in pressure caused by faulting and folding associated with movement of tectonic plates causes the rocks to become molten and semi-fluid. Such rocks are called magma. So we need to understand, how does magma come about? So the high temperature and the great pressure exerted on to the mantle. So we are saying, as the magma rises, it forces its way onto the cracks of the crust, which are caused by folding. Remember? And folding. The magma may stay in the crust where it forms the batholiths, the seals, the dikes, the laccolith, and these are the intrusive. It solidifies within. It may reach the surface either quietly or with great violence, as we shall see. If the magma contains a lot of gases, especially steam, then as the magma approaches the surface, the pressure on the gas is reduced. This causes the gases to expand rapidly, which gives rise to violent eruption. So we are saying we have violent and then non-violent. We are going to see that very soon in our lesson. So we are saying it is either outside the crust or inside the crust. So we're saying the pressure that is exerted on this causes the violent eruption. So when magma reaches the surface, it loses its gases and it is called lava. So what we see on the surface forming these igneous rocks now, it's called lava. No magma. So we move on. Hope we have understood how the molten rocks are formed and why, when it comes to the surface, it's called lava. We continue. To the Earth's surface, it forms extrusive features when magma slowly cools down. Within the crust, it forms intrusive volcanic features. Point to note here that when the molten rocks are still underneath, it is called magma. But on reaching the surface, it's called lava. We have seen this earlier on. So we are saying, note this very well. So we are saying, there are two types of lava, i.e. the basic and acidic lava. Acidic lava is highly sticky and flows for a short distance before solidifying, whereas basic lava is less sticky and flows for a long distance before solidifying. So we're saying, below here we can just use this illustration to help us understand that what we see there in that photo is what we have just described as violent eruption, where now magma has been able to be ejected onto the earth surface. That's the crust, the surface of the crust. And we are saying, when this reaches the surface of the crust, we call it lava. So we're saying, when it is ejected violently, it will have to flow. So this flowing that we see here, this one here. So when it flows for a long distance, that is called basic lava. But when it flows for a short distance from where it has been ejected and finally solidifies, it's called acidic lava. So below here, I want us to go into this video of volcanic eruption to help us understand what we've just talked about, and before we move on into the details of volcanicity as a topic. Enjoy the video. Takes place in this video today. Oh my goodness, look at that. My goodness, that is smoke, fire and ash that comes out fast. That is fire. My goodness. Wow, look at the intense pressure that happens. So it's due to the pressure that pushes the magma out onto the earth crust, which then turns into lava. My goodness, look at that. Wow. So the top of the mountain has been blown off. And this is what we call the violent eruption. My goodness. Look at the eruption in the side vent. Have you seen that? That's what we talk about in geography. This is so amazing. So volcanic eruption is quite interesting, at the same time can be quite disastrous, as we can see. So it is throwing its magma fragments for quite a distance. Hope you've seen that. My goodness. So this happens because of the pressure beneath, and we talked earlier, we say that the heat due to the plates that sit onto the crust forces the rocks into the mantle to be molten rocks, which are called magma. And the red stuff that we see here, the fire kind of stuff that we see here, is actually the molten rocks. That's the magma we're talking about. But as you see, the white is disappearing, the gas going out. Then when it settles on the ground, it turns into lava. My goodness, look at that. That is fire. So when we say that igneous rocks are formed by fire, this is what we mean. My goodness, God is great. Look at that. Just look at that. It's a boiling pot. So what we see down here is the flow. We talked about being disastrous. You can see the houses burning. My goodness. Look at the lava flow. For quite distances, it can be disastrous, thus destroying vegetation, animals, and actually settlement. My goodness. What you see right now is the lava flow. Actually, it has solidified now. It has blocked even the road. My goodness. So we are saying basic lava is the one that flows for quite a long distance, then acidic for a short distance. So what you've just seen here that has flown for quite a long distance, that must have been basic lava. The one that you see right now in the video is basic, that is flowing for quite a long distance. My goodness, that's fire flowing. And that's the lava that we're talking about. So it will finally solidify and form the extrusive fissures that we talked about. My goodness. Hope this video has helped you to understand what happens during volcanic eruption. Thank you. I guess it was that lovely. So we want to look at the classification of volcanoes. What we have just seen there is the active ones, the erupting, and you've been able to see how the violent eruption happens, how the lava flows, and how it finally solidifies. So I guess that video was just quite enough for us to understand what we are talking about and why we call volcanicity as one of the interesting topics in geography. So we move on. Classification of volcanoes. So we're saying volcanoes are these features formed by the process known as volcanicity. So we're saying, number one, we have what we call active volcanoes. These are the volcanoes that are said to have erupted in the recent past. For example, in East Africa, we have the Nyamlangira at the Congo-Uganda basin, and then we also have what we call the extinct volcanoes. These are volcanoes that have not shown any sign of activity in the historic times. For example, Mount Kenya, Elgon, and Moroto. They did erupt some time back, but in a few years past, we have not seen any sign that shows that they're about to. We continue. Then we have last classification known as dormant volcanoes. These are volcanoes which are not active, but showing signs of activity. They're expected to erupt anytime. You better be careful about it. For example, we have Kilimanjaro, Mufumbido, Longonot, and Menengai, that is in East Africa. Across the world, there are quite a number. But we're looking at the examples in East Africa. So we're saying these ones are showing some signs of activity. They're expected to erupt anytime. So we're saying they've been dormant for some time. And these signs, for example, we can see the smoke. We can feel the temperature increasing. The animals leaving the steep areas of these islands. There are quite a number of signs that show it's about. So we're saying the dormant volcanoes are showing signs. And they've been so dormant for some time. So the classification that we have here are three. Active volcanoes, extinct volcanoes, and lastly, dormant volcanoes. So we are saying active, these are volcanoes that are said to have erupted in the recent past. Some time back, they did erupt. Then extinct volcanoes, these are volcanoes that have not shown any sign of activity in the historical times. So they've been there, but they've not shown us any sign. Then the dormant, they're saying these are volcanoes which are not active, but show signs of activity. We move on. So in this illustration, we are trying to bring out what we have just seen in the video previously. So what we see here is the process of eruption. Magma coming out of the earth crust onto the surface. So we're saying extrusively is when it comes onto the surface of the earth. So what we see, that lava sloping down in that red color there, is what now we call the lava flow, which is flowing. We understood that we have the basic and acidic. One is sticky, the other is less sticky. So we're saying we can also have what we call intrusive, where the magma has failed to reach the earth's surface. And it forms fissures like the sea, the dikes, the batholith, the laccolith, and many others, as we shall see. So these are formed within the earth crust. But the other features, as we shall see, the dune, the composite cone, the crater, and others are formed outside the earth crust, and those are known as extrusive. So below here is what we call the magma, and then it is moving through the lines of weakness which are caused by either faulting or falling onto the earth's surface. And then we are saying what we see here is the eruption cloud. We say it starts with the dust and the gases, then the ash, before the magma comes. So this is the ash flow that we see this other side and this other side. Ash first, then the muddy flow that was once in that area. So due to eruption, it is boom. Hope we are getting this. We move on. So we are saying we want to start with what they call extrusive volcano fissures. These which are formed outside the earth crust. We're saying number one, we have the composite cone. It is made up of alternate successive layers of lava and ash. It is formed through successive eruption and ash forming through the central vent. So when eruption takes place for quite some time successively, the layers of magma coming onto each other are the ones that will form the composite cone. And examples of composite cone in East Africa, we have the Mount Muhabra, Mount Kilimanjaro, and Mount Meru, and then Mount Elgon. We move on. Craters. It's also an example of extrusive volcano fissures. Craters. It is a small flat floor depression or cavity on top of a volcano. It is formed when the top of a volcano is blown off through a violent eruption. And when it is filled with water, it forms crater lakes. Quite a number in East Africa. We have quite a number. For example, in the Queen Elizabeth kind of game park. Quite a number. And the examples are given below here. We move on. So we are saying, this is a diagram, a photo to show us how a composite cone looks like. We are saying it is made up of alternate successive layers of lava. Remember we said lava is the one that comes on the earth's surface when the gases disappear. It's not magma now, it's lava. So successive layers, as we can see on this one here, the layers of lava flowing due to continuous kind of eruption. It forms a composite cone. We move on. This other side, we are seeing what we call a crater. And we're saying it is a small, flat, flowed depression or cavity on top of a volcano. It is formed when the top of a volcano is blown off through violent eruption. This is what we're seeing down here. That what you see here is a small, not actually small, it's big, but a sharp kind of depression, cavity on top of this volcano. It's blown off when violent eruption happens. So this can help us understand what we always look at theoretically. Now practically we can see this in photos and understand them better. We move on. Other features of extrusive volcanic features. We move on. We have the caldera. It is an enlarged crater. Remember we have seen the crater initially, but now this is a caldera. It is an enlarged crater. I can take you back to a crater. This is the crater we're talking about. But now when it is enlarged due to the erosion process, it's going to be called a caldera. So it's an enlarged crater. It is formed due to violent eruption. Examples in East Africa, we have the Napak, Ngorongoro in northern Tanzania, Bangai, Menengai, Long North Mission. These are examples in East Africa, across the world. There are quite a number, many. Next is lava plains. This is an upland with a flat, gentle sloping surface, made of several layers of lava, 1,000 meters thick. So we're saying it is formed when basic lava, which is not viscous or visco, which flows or not sticky, which flows for a long time before solidifying. So this lava is able to flow quite kilometers, quite meters without solidifying. So when it flows for quite a long distance, it forms what we call the lava plain. The lava plain. Hope we're together. We move on. Next we have volcanic plug. This is formed when molten lava solidifies in a vent and later exposed on the earth's surface by processes of erosion, denudation kind of processes. So it is within, but later exposed. Then ash and cedar cone. These are small symmetrical cones of pyroclast, less than 150 meters, with fairly steep sides between. So we're saying ash and cedar cones. They are small symmetrical cones on top of these volcanoes, where the vents, where the outlets of the volcanoes were. So they form as due to the successive kind of eruption. When finally stops, the lava that solidifies around that area forms a cone. So below here we are saying this is a caldera, wide. So we are saying it is an enlarged kind of crater due to erosion. So it is wide. So this is what we call, what we refer to as a caldera. There are quite a number also in areas of Potro. Then next is the lava plain. This is lava which has been flowing quite for a long distance. And we're saying this type of lava is known as basic lava. So here what we see here, this one is not yet even has not yet even cooled down. You can see it is still red. This other black one has already cooled down. So this expanse kind of extensive kind of area of lava is what we call the lava plain. On the other side is what we see. What we see there is the volcanic plug. Examples of this in Uganda, we have the Toro Rock. So it comes out of the ground. This was lava trying to come onto the earth's surface, but solidified within the vent. And that's what led to the formation of a volcanic plug. Now we have others, the hot spring. These are features produced when heated water in the volcanic area flows out in form of hot spring. Then the geysers is also a hot spring that erupts periodically, shooting out of water and steam in the area. For example, hot springs near Mtanda, Western Uganda, Chitagata in Bushenyi, Sempaya in Bundibujo, Majimoto in Tanzania, quite a number, and these are found in the volcanic kind of areas. We shall understand the geography of the water spring. But now we are looking at features formed to extrusive kind of volcano. So these are examples of pictures trying to show us the water springs. Later in this lesson we shall have a video about them. So you can see this is water, hot, really hot water. You can see even the steam here. And it is due to the hot temperatures within the earth crust. As we said last time when you looked at the lava or the magma is hot. So the temperatures caused by these different layers exerted onto the crust, they increase the temperatures, which temperatures actually boil this water as it comes onto the surface, forming the hot spring. We move on. Now we move on to the intrusive volcanic features. We've been looking at extrusive things outside. Now I want to look at things inside, intrusive volcanic features. And this will conclude our lesson today. These are formed when magma does not reach the Earth's surface, but simply solidifies within the Earth crust. In some cases, such features have been exposed to the surface by denudation. For example, we have quite a number in Muvende, Nakasonga, and these are examples within East Africa. Across the world, are quite a number. So these include the lapolith, the laccolith, the batholith, the dike, and the seal. So these are intrusive volcanic features which are formed within the earth crust. Lava does not go out or outside the crust. It just solidifies, slowly solidifies within the earth crust, forming such features. So below here is the photo to just briefly show us. So this is outside. We talked about the ash cone, remember? In extrusive. But now we are interested in those ones that are formed within the earth crust, not outside the earth crust. So we have the dike, we have the batholith, we have the seal, and then we have the laccolith. So these are features formed within the earth crust. Magma solidifies within, does not reach the earth's surface. So with this, we'll have to end today's lesson, and I'll leave you with a video of the hot springs that will help you to understand what we've just been looking at. Thank you very much. See you next time.